Seja bem-vinda, seja bem-vindo. Está no ar o Firmeza Redonda, o seu debate semanal de basquetebol que acontece toda quinta-feira, pontualmente às 14h, aqui na TOCO TV. Se você me viu meio doidão, meio olhando pro lado nessa introdução, foi porque eu nem tinha visto essa vinheta maravilhosa. Essa vinheta maravilhosa. Você vê esse programa tá cada vez melhor aí e estamos no ar. Hoje, gente, o programa é gravado, essa semana é de Jogo das Estrelas do NBB e eu tô, neste exato momento, estou absolutamente atolado. Então hoje o programa é gravado, mas é um programa especialíssimo, porque esta é a primeira vez que teremos um convidado internacional na TOCO TV. Eu sou Gustavo Meza, estarei nessa com você. E ele, que também ficou impressionado com a vinheta, que não assistiu até o final, quando recebeu o arquivo, Rafael Cardone, o Firo. E aí, Firo, beleza?
Fala, galera. Firmeza. De fato, grande surpresa nesses 10 segundos finais.
Você com certeza não viu até o final?
Não, eu vi, tipo, a qualidade tá boa, tá tudo bem, beleza, fechou. Não vou assistir inteira, não me avisaram, assista até o fim.
Espera esse final especial.
Mas parabéns aí pelos responsáveis. Ficou brabo.
Ficou brabo. Gostei.
E vamos que vamos. Espero que a segunda parte aqui do nosso episódio, agora que você esteja assistindo, já esteja totalmente legendado, bonitinho, porque essa é a ideia também. Estamos gravando na terça-feira à noite. E então temos aí um dia e meio para legendar tudo e subir isso no ar.
Não sabemos se será possível, mas é o objetivo.
Não é muito tempo. A gente queria ter gravado na segunda, mas não tinha o horário, não bateu a agenda. Então vamos correr contra o relógio aí. E tomara. Vai dar certo. Qualquer coisa a gente adia o lançamento do episódio, porque acho que é melhor. Acho que é melhor atrasar.
Então talvez agora não seja quinta-feira, 14h.
Talvez seja sexta-feira. E se agora for sexta-feira, o Gustavo Meza também está totalmente atolado.
Estou muito atolado. Então,
mas a gente quis aproveitar, a gente aproveitou o ensejo de que o Gustavo Meza ia poder gravar e falou, pô, uma boa época para ter o convidado gringo. Óbvio que ele tá aqui não por causa da nossa agenda.
A gente teve uma parcela,
E aí, pô, então vamos gravar e dá tempo de legendar. E aí a gente experimenta essa doideira, né? De ter um episódio parcialmente em outra língua.
Isso, depois vocês mandam feedback aí do que...
É o primeiro passo para eventualmente a gente estar aqui entrevistando o LeBron James. Olha só, uma vestimenta nova, hein, Gustavo Meza?
Uma vestimenta nova?
Você viu esse meu jaco? Que coisa bonita.
Eu vi, você ganhou de presente, você postou nas redes. Eu acompanho você nas redes.
Obrigado, meu irmão Diogo. Eu amei o presente, irmão. Tamo junto. O Diogo
é o que, na semana passada, trouxe o tema Tulalã.
Isso.
Que foi muito legal. Se você não viu, vá ver.
Ele é o que entende que o outro tá blefando ali. Que tá
ele truca, ele pede 6. Ele pede 6. Não. o seu irmão mais velho truca e ele pede 6.
É verdade, é uma trucadinha ali do tipo, não, tu não
Tô bombando, mano, truco. E tipo, não, aí o Dão chega gigante e pede 6. Mas grande presente aí, muito obrigado, Dão. E depois a gente vamos guardar o suspense do convidado?
Você é o host.
Então vamos guardar o suspense do convidado. Ele já tá na thumb, mas depois a gente vai explicar.
Já colocou nas redes.
Sim, várias coisas. Mas tem gente que tá desavisada. Tem gente que tá desavisada, talvez numa sexta-feira.
Tá escrito no título do programa.
Com certeza. Mas por quê? Quem é essa pessoa? A gente já vai explicar. Vamos de recadinho?
Vamos.
Os recadinhos são, olha, gente, superchat. O que vocês mandarem de superchat, a gente vai responder no programa da semana que vem, né?
Isso.
O superchat nos ajuda demais, então se você mandar, ele será respondido. Se tiver uma pergunta pro Leigh, a gente nem confirmou isso, mas vamos tentar fazer ele responder.
Tá bom.
O que você acha?
Tentaremos.
Tentaremos. Mas o superchat nos ajuda demais. E se você quiser contribuir, mandar sua dúvida, sua pergunta, elogiar o programa durante, fazer críticas, fique à vontade. Isso nos ajuda demais. E o outro recado, Firo, qual que é? É que este programa aqui, ó, é oferecido pela KTO, o site onde você encontra as melhores e mais completas probabilidades esportivas e não esportivas. É onde a gente faz nossas brabas e é o programa aí que mais é o site que mais apoia aí a mídia independente do basquete. Se você acompanha outros veículos, você também deve ver a KTO por aí. Então você faz sua braba em outro lugar, vem pra KTO. Usa o cupom TOCO no primeiro cadastro, que além de ganhar um bônus, você nos ajuda demais, que a KTO sabe que você veio da família TOCO TV. E Firu, eu sou obrigado a dizer que eu tô na terceira semana seguida no lucro.
Monstro.
Você não deve ter nem percebido, porque eu errei tanta coisa. Mas sabe o que eu acertei? As zebras. Detroit e Minnesota. Só nisso, pimba.
Já ficou no green.
Paguei os investimentos ali. Então,
boa.
Então, e você ganhou alguma coisa no Oscar pra gente?
Não. Mas eram apostas ousadas.
Eu adoro quando você...
Não, eu falei, eu tô apostando aqui. Não acho que é o que vai acontecer. Eu acho que o Oppenheimer vai ganhar essas categorias. Mas caso dê uma zebra, vamos lá. E não deu.
E não foi lá.
Não deu zebra.
Nem os roteiros adaptados, essas coisas.
Não, roteiro adaptado não. Filme não. Atriz realmente estava aberta, acabou ganhando a Emma Stone, mas parece que estava entre as duas, né?
Então você quase...
Eu fui na terceira via.
Não, a terceira via no Oscar é maravilhoso. Pô, é legal, é muito bom.
E no filme estrangeiro deu o mais óbvio, que é o filme... Eu sou contra.
Você é contra o quê? Se tá no filme, melhor filme, não vai disputar estrangeiro?
Cara, você é um time pequeno, você subiu pra Série A, meu amigo, você vai jogar Série A. Você não vai também jogar Série B pra garantir um títulozinho no ano, entendeu?
Não, é tipo a Libertadores e o Brasileirão. Tá todo mundo no Brasileirão, mas você também tá disputando a Libertadores com os 5 melhores. Eu sou a favor. Sou, né? Pô, puta sacanagem, então, cara. Não me indica pra melhor filme nem a pau. Não. Tem que... Eu quero ver um mundo... Às vezes tem dois.
Acaba o suspense.
Mas às vezes tem 2 estrangeiros.
Raro, hein?
Será que não teve no ano do Parasita, por exemplo? Às vezes tem 2 ali, cara. Um francês ali que entrou na onda.
A anatomia de uma queda que tava concorrendo ao melhor filme, em tese, eu falei, será que os franceses não escolheram ele como representante? Será que é um filme produzido...
Tem essas paradas também, né? Cada país manda um.
E o que importa é quem produziu, quem financiou, sabe? Tipo, sei lá, é complicado.
Tá difícil, essa globalização aí tá difícil de definir o filme estrangeiro.
Pois é. Que foi o caso do nosso, né? O Cidade de Deus, lá atrás, não concorreu, a princípio.
Porque o Brasil não mandou.
Ou mandou e não entrou, eu não lembro qual
Eu acho que não foi. Eu acho que o que aconteceu...
Aí, 2 anos depois, ele foi lançado no circuito americano e tal. E aí, com esse lançamento, ele conseguiu concorrer. Aí concorreu umas 4 categorias.
Mas não concorreu a melhor filme estrangeiro.
Não.
Então, acho que por isso. Porque no ano que deve ter lançado, o Brasil mandou outro filme.
Eu tenho a impressão que o Brasil mandou o Cidade e não rolou.
Não sei, faltou lobby?
Sei lá.
Você gosta de Cidade de Deus?
Gosto. Mas eu não revi, eu queria rever. Eu amava quando eu era criança. E,
eu gosto bastante.
Tá aí um filme que eu nunca mais revi, cara.
Você nunca pegou por aí?
Não.
Eu gosto bastante. Eu acho filmaço. Então, muito bom, Firu. Legal você continuar investindo bem os nossos fundos, né?
Foi R$20 mesmo.
Não, então, eu até comentei no último programa, eu falei, tá muito legal. Toda semana eu acerto e nosso fundo só diminui.
Não, é engraçado, porque isso é uma tendência dos últimos 3 semanas, de ter um ano inteiro aí de...
Não, mas é que agora eu encaixei, é que nem você com o seu arremesso.
Beleza.
Eu encaixei. Já vai tocar nesse assunto aí,
Tá bom.
Firu, vamos começar. Eu queria te perguntar um negocinho. Você quer?
Falar?
Não, você que tá a par disso. Essa semana, meu amigo, eu não consegui ver nada, eu não tô vendo nada. Firu tá tocando a firma. Firu tá tocando a firma.
Tem um grande recado, uma bomba aqui, tá? É uma bomba. É possível que esteja até entrando na tela nesse momento sobre o que vai ser a bomba, se der pra editar.
Sério?
Se der pra editar.
Não, depois da nossa vinheta, nada mais me surpreende.
Tudo é possível. Se a gente vai legendar, talvez dê pra entrar isso aqui também. Mas é o seguinte, gente. Estamos crescendo. Vocês viram nova vinheta. Estamos em busca de mais parceiros.
A equipe aumentou.
A equipe aumentou. Estamos com um produtor brabo aqui, ajudando a gente a fazer tudo acontecer aqui. E no meio disso tudo, o que a gente está fazendo acontecer de fato é o nosso clube de membros.
Finalmente, hein?
Finalmente lançamos o clube de membro. Então, agora, nesse momento que isso está indo ao ar, agora que a gente está divulgando, é no Apoia-se, tá? Não vai ser no YouTube.
Porque o YouTube morde muito, né?
O YouTube pega metade da grana para eles, até mais, assim. Então, não faz sentido eu pedir a contribuição de vocês, porque metade vai para os caras. No Apoia-se, a maior parte vai para a gente, de fato. E isso sim vai ajudar a gente a poder fazer mais conteúdo e tudo mais. Então, a gente quer melhorar cada vez mais esse programa de membros. A princípio, assim, são 3 faixas de preço, 3 níveis. Tá? Então, você começa com um mutombo ali. E aí você tem direito a acesso à comunidade no Discord. E é lá na comunidade do Discord onde a gente vai fazer tudo. As lives especiais, um monte de coisa vai ser lá, então você vai ganhar acesso a essa comunidade especial. Vai ser um lugar bem legal para debater, para trocar ideia, sem aquela coisa tóxica do Twitter, onde você não pode falar uma besteira que a galera cai matando lá. Um lugar livre mesmo para trocar ideia, para abrir a cabeça e ficar conversando de basquete. Eu vou estar bastante lá, bem mais lá do que no Twitter, inclusive, então vai ser um lugar legal. Lá também a gente vai organizar as ligas de fantasy, em todos os níveis você vai ter algum benefício em termos de fantasy. Ano que vem, outubro, vai começar de novo a próxima temporada. Esse ano, outubro, vai começar a próxima temporada de fantasy. Vocês que estão aí perguntando como é que joga fantasy, como é que é, pô, não consigo montar uma liga, tal. Entra no nosso clube de membros que você vai se dar bem aí. A partir do nível de R$30, a gente mesmo organiza com comes para tomar as decisões, com tudo lá. Mas a partir dos R$10, que é o plano básico, você já tem acesso a canal exclusivo para sua liga de fantasy, as regras, a gente ensina como jogar, os setups, um monte de coisa, um monte de benefício. Então, tudo isso vai estar à sua disposição e muito mais, tá? Mas o legal é que agora a gente está com uma meta. A gente quer bater, primeiro, 200 membros, tá? Então, nossa meta é bater 200 membros. Assim que bater 200 membros, a gente vai fazer 2 coisas. Uma live exclusiva lá no Discord de pergunte o que quiser. E essa live vai ser mensal a partir do momento que bater 200 membros. E também mensal, também no Discord, para todos os membros de todos os níveis. Watch Party.
Boom!
Então a gente vai escolher um jogo na semana, no mês, né? No caso, por enquanto. Talvez, numas metas mais para frente, isso vire semanal, talvez. No momento, seria um programa mensal que a gente escolhe um jogo e assiste junto. Então, todo mundo ali na sala, cada um com o seu... A gente não vai transmitir o jogo, obviamente, mas cada um no seu device, a gente vai trocando ideia, sabe? Não é eu e o Mesa narrando e tal, mas eu e o Mesa lá juntos, assistindo, conversando. Vocês conversam também, todo mundo conversa. Uma watch party mesmo aí com a galera. E acho que é um negócio que vai ser legal da gente fazer junto aí. Então é isso, galera. Clube de membros. E o mais importante de verdade é assim, eu sei que tem muita gente querendo ajudar a gente a crescer, querendo ajudar. E a gente não oferecia o como, né? Porque tava parado o nosso clube de membros do YouTube. A gente chegou a bater, nossa, um monte de assinantes na época da Twitch. Mas a gente largou a Twitch também.
Twitch largou a gente.
Os dois, a gente se largou.
Não, foi um relacionamento que não deu
frutos.
Não deu frutos.
Então espero que a gente consiga bater. Eu tô animado. Pô, se já bater 200 membros já vai ajudar a gente. Até com isso a gente vai conseguir fazer essas lives a mais. Óbvio que a nossa meta é um dia ter, sei lá, 1.000, 2.000 membros. Aí dá para fazer muito mais coisa. Aí dá para se planejar e crescer mesmo, assim, de uma forma mais estruturada. Mas vamos um passinho de cada vez. Essa primeira meta de 200 já vai ser muito legal. E é isso aí. Tô animado. Conto demais com a colaboração de vocês. Quem puder ajudar, cara, de verdade, isso vai ajudar muito a gente a se estruturar e a crescer cada vez mais.
É isso. Bom, essa é a melhor... não sei se vai ser ou já é, porque esse programa está sendo gravado, mas é a melhor maneira de dar uma ajuda aí para a TOCO TV, para a gente fazer cada vez mais conteúdo. E não percam por esperar, que vai vir novidade na programação.
Vai ter o quadro aqui no Firmeza Redonda, que a gente vai selecionar 2 perguntas toda semana da galera lá no Discord, dos membros. Isso também para todos os níveis. Isso já não é meta, já vai estar a partir de agora. Vai ter salve aí de agradecimento a todo mundo que apoiar. Vai ter muita coisa aqui mesmo. É
isso, a gente quer valorizar também quem nos valoriza, assim. E, claro, ninguém tá pedindo fazer esforço, mas se puder ajudar, se quiser, se for da sua vontade, será muito bem-vindo. Muito bem, Firu. Antes de chamar o nosso convidado...
Vamos lá.
Você não sabe o que eu vou te perguntar, mas eu quero saber, Firu, do nosso Lakers. Que, pô...
Empolgou?
É isso que eu quero saber. Ganhou do Wolvaço, ganhou do Bucks, perdeu pro Kings, tudo bem. Mas tinha ganhado do Thunder, tá? É uma sequencinha de respeito, hein?
Sequência pesada, o Lakers jogando bem, de verdade. Dillon na melhor fase da carreira dele, de longe. Teve um dos jogos que foi ele, né? Que destruiu. E mesmo sem o LeBron em um jogo ou outro aí, ganhando e tal... É uma sequência boa do Lakers. Isso já estava acontecendo desde antes da pausa do All-Star Game. O Lakers engrenando. Já está vários jogos agora acima de 500, né? De 50%. Seguimos em nono. Esse é o problema, porque... Legal, ganhou jogo, mas é um calendário difícil. Então, você pegar os últimos 10 jogos, o Lakers está 6-4. É difícil você começar a tentar descolar 6-4. Você tem que emendar 8-2 para conseguir subir.
Isso aí, cortando a margem, né?
Porque, pô, e olha, o Kings teve uma sequência aí vacilante. Mas também não é uma sequência 2-8, que com 6-4 você vai cortar. Não, uma sequência 4-6.
O Kings tá 6-4.
O Kings agora é que ele chegou a ficar 4-6.
Eles tiveram uma crisezinha, mas...
Isso, e beleza, o Dallas perdeu 4 seguidas, agora já ganhou 3 seguidas. Então, e o calendário do Dallas é super fácil. É difícil, mas o Lakers e o Golden State Warriors, que também engrenou, eles precisam desesperadamente, um dos dois pelo menos, sair desse nono décimo.
Não, é porque basicamente significa que um deles não vai nem para playoff. Não tem muito...
Uma garantia.
Isso é garantido, é matemático. E o Warriors, o que pegou o Warriors foi a questão Curry também, né? Que ele perder... Deixa eu ver. Ele perdeu os últimos 2 jogos. Isso, perdeu os últimos jogos. Não vai jogar quarta contra o Mavericks, né? Mas é isso, ele tá para voltar, mas quando que ele vai voltar?
Cara, o Lakers essa temporada, eu acho que a gente tem um dos melhores recordes contra os times top 6, top 10 da NBA. O Lakers é um time que pode ganhar de qualquer time, menos o Nuggets, claro. A gente pode ganhar de qualquer time em qualquer noite. E pode perder de qualquer time em qualquer noite.
A questão do Lakers, esse foi um ponto que o Zach Lowe trouxe, que eu acho que foi muito... Foi inteligente. Que ele falou, cara, o Lakers tem uma dificuldade de ganhar jogos. Tipo, eles pegam Washington, difícil. Eles suam.
Isso.
Parece que eles podem ganhar de todo mundo, mas eles podem ter problema com absolutamente todo mundo. E ele disse que ele fica cético por causa disso, que nos playoffs, cara, é bom você meter 20 ali, abrir 20 no primeiro tempo e ficar com essa vitória, sabe? Então...
A mesma campanha da final de conferência foi em 6 jogos, né? As 2 fases. E acho que um jogo tranquilo, das 8 vitórias, 2 tranquilas, uma contra o Warriors e uma contra o Memphis. De resto, cara, Tudo jogo que vai pro final. Vai pro final, que a gente é um time que executa bem no final. A gente tem o LeBron James, a gente tem uma defesa muito boa, tal. Mas é isso, assim, é complicado. Mas, de fato, é um Lakers que dá para ter mais confiança do que o Lakers que vinha até final de janeiro. Acho que a chegada do Rui Hashimura de vez aí no line-up, o Dillon pegando confiança, mudou bastante o patamar do time. Porque o Reeves tá meio a mesma coisa o ano inteiro, que é bom, muito bom jogador. E Anthony Davis e LeBron jogando muito bem, ambos. Então faltava o resto do time comparecer. Eu acho que o Taurean Prince agora finalmente com um volume menor e tal, tá mais de acordo com o que ele consegue fazer. Ele também tá um pouquinho melhor nesse papel. A gente não precisando de 35 minutos do cara e tal. Vai chegar agora Gabe Vincent, vai chegar agora o Vanderbilt. Vamos ver. Eu acho que o Lakers é um time que pode ganhar mesmo de qualquer um no Oeste. Menos o Denver. A gente não tem time para ganhar do Denver. Então, eu acho que é aquela coisa. Eu olho para esse time e falo, cara, é muito bom. Falta aquele ala, sabe? Falta um ala. E eu fico muito chateado a gente não ter ido atrás de um Dorian Finney-Smith da vida, dos caras que eu sempre falei que tinha que ir atrás e não ia ser tão custoso e ajudar a gente a competir de verdade, sabe? Porque eu não acho que tá faltando uma estrela. E eu não tenho dúvida. O Lakers agora no off-season vai atrás de uma estrela que não necessariamente vai ter um bom encaixe que vai, sei lá, ou tirar a bola da mão do LeBron James, ou vai piorar a defesa, ou sei lá o quê. E eu não acho que era esse caminho, sabe? Eu acho que Lakers de LeBron e AD precisava de bons jogadores complementares. E a gente nunca mais tentou fazer isso.
É que vocês já têm a terceira estrela, né? D'Angelo Russell. Você tá comprando?
Não.
O Gui Gaspari, nosso amigo Gui Gaspari, que espero que esteja ouvindo. Eu acho que ele tá comprando. Ele sempre foi anti-Dillon, mas eu acho que ele tá sendo conquistado.
Cara, é difícil confiar no Dillon tendo visto tudo que ele já falhou na hora H e tal. Mas eu não tô muito preocupado com isso, porque a gente chegou na final deixando ele no banco. Então é um time que...
Sim, mas o ponto é justamente esse. E vocês não tinham coisa suficiente.
Isso. Não, às vezes... Então, assim, eu tô só curtindo mesmo, sabe? Beleza, da hora, tá bem legal de ver. Ele com a confiança extrema e tal, jogando muito bem. Tem que elogiar. Tem que elogiar uma coisa. Agora, confiar...
Não, que ele tá jogando bem, isso é inegável. Você pega as médias dele, 18 pontos, 47% de quadra, 42% de 3, 80% de lance livre. Tipo, ele tá jogando bem. E ele tá... É o que eu falo, o Dillon nos melhores dias, ele lembra muito pra mim o Jamal Murray. Que ele gosta do arremesso e tal, ele vai lá perto, tem um joguinho de pernas, busca um jumperzinho. Só que... Tem dias que ele joga que nem o Jamal Murray e arremessa que nem o Markelle Fultz, né? E aí isso não é legal e toma decisões erradas. Mas ele tem esse protótipo. Eu, particularmente, só vou acreditar quando eu vir nos playoffs, quando você me dá 2 séries que você tá fechando todos os jogos, tá sendo decisivo. Ele até durante uma série tem os seus lapsos e os jogos, só que você precisa de consistência. E é uma posição que o Lakers precisa. Tipo, se o Dillon for isso... Isso pode ajudar muito o Lakers.
Faz diferença.
Porque é um armador que, querendo ou não, tem tamanho. Não é um bom defensor, tal, mas ele tem tamanho, ele passa a quadra, se ele estiver metendo bola, ele tem que ser respeitado. E é tudo que o Lakers
põe pressão
precisa.
Na adversário.
Ele pode ser um definidor secundário ali, tá ligado? Tirando a pressão do LeBron, você acha o Dillon no lado fraco da defesa. Mas eu só vou acreditar aí quando eu tiver uma amostragem. E eu ainda acho que o Lakers... É o que você fala, eu concordo com você. O Lakers ainda vai precisar de caras desses que não sabe se dá pra contar ainda. Então...
A gente sabe que dá pra contar com 3 caras. O resto ainda é muito... O Rui é o mais perto de ser um 4º cara, porque ele jogou muito bem nos playoffs e tá jogando bem agora. É o mais perto, mas também não dá pra falar, não, confio totalmente que ele vai jogar bem nos playoffs de novo. Não, eu de fato tô com essa esperança, mas cravar, não cravo. E o resto é tipo, vamos ver o que sai disso aí. De Dillon, Taurean Prince, Jackson Hayes.
Essa galera. Nossa, o Reeves meteu uma bola linda contra o... Você viu a bola que ele meteu contra o Bucks?
Quem?
O Reeves. Que, mano, pra cá, pra lá, girou bandejinha. Foi... Esse jogo ele foi
Eu
bem
tava
pra
vendo ao
cacete.
vivo.
Eu também. E ele meteu bolas importantes. Eu confio... Nele eu confio
Ele
também.
joga demais.
Não, ele é muito inteligente, cara. Ele sabe jogar basquete. E isso...
E assim, é uma temporada que ele tá indo na manha. Ele não tá forçando um protagonismo e tal. Ele teve um começo ruim de arremesso. Mas é isso, ele é um bom jogador, cara. Ele é muito bom jogador. Ele é inteligente, confiante, tem os moves, é habilidoso e tal.
A questão é que... É isso, ele não deu nenhum salto muito significativo, porque ele ganhou a relevância. Se você pensar em estatística e tal, ele entrou esse ano como estabelecido o terceiro cara do time, né? Isso ficou claro nos playoffs e tal. Mas, bom, foi para a seleção dos Estados Unidos, toda essa questão. Mas, de fato, saltos estatísticos não deram, mas ele é um cara que eu confio também. Não é porque ele não tá com umas puta estatísticas, esse cara dá para confiar. A questão é o resto, né? O resto é mais complicado. Você quer falar mais alguma coisa de Lakers, Firu?
Não, tô...
Você quer lamentar a lesão de Alperen Sengun?
Cara, não, sabia? Eu tô animado com o que deu no resultado, porque, assim, obviamente, ele já, assim que você vê o lance e fala, tá, falta um mês de temporada, Houston não vai pro play-in e tal, acabou o ano do cara, não vai voltar. Eu só tava preocupado de dele não perder a temporada que vem. Eu acho que tinha chance dele perder a temporada inteira, eu acho que tinha chance dele voltar só lá pro All-Star Game. E eu achava que o melhor cenário era um cenário onde, não, ele ia estar de volta aí na pre-season, e já começar em outubro, jogo 1, ele enquadra. E, ao que tudo indica, é esse o cenário. Foi uma lesão muito feia, foram 2 lesões de uma vez só.
Foi uma torção de grau 3 no tornozelo e um bone bruise, uma trincada no osso do joelho. Então, se for... Acho que ele, nas duas partes, ele evitou uma fratura, um rompimento. Então...
Foi excelente o resultado e tudo indica que ele vai estar saudável aí já pro começo do ano e tal, que é ótimo. Porque...
É que ele... Não, e o foda é que ele veio de 2 atuações muito absurdas, né? Que ele...
Eu tava enfrentando ele no Fantasy, cara. Me fez suar esse cara.
Te fez suar?
Porra!
Fez suar. Não, no Fantasy aqui, eu tô aberto no Fantasy, inclusive, que é onde a gente vê as lesões e tal. Ele fez uma partida de 92 e uma de 79. E a de 92, dias seguintes, contra o Spurs e contra o Clippers, que ele meteu 45 no Embanyama. E, enfim. Foi logo depois do nosso faxina. E a galera falou: viu, vocês não falaram do Sengun. Mas eu acho que... Eu não sei se ficou claro. Eu acho que ele ainda não é uma estrela e tal, mas eu acho que a gente deixou claro que o maior projeto de estrela era ele.
A esperança é essa. Por isso que num dos cenários... Eu até acho que pode ir em frente, montar esse time e torcer para, de fato, um desses caras estourar e virar uma estrela.
Não, eu acho que depois do faxina firmeza que a gente fez, por mim, esse é o caminho certo. Porque a gente não viu nenhum... Sei lá, eu não acho que o que a gente montou gastando os assets e tal, não sei se valia a pena... Quando você pode simplesmente esperar e dar mais 1 ano, mais 2 anos. É porque o Houston, nessa temporada, ele botou metade das fichas na mesa ali.
E na real foi só o cap space que eles gastaram.
Isso. Metade das fichas, digo, de... O que eles botaram foi uma
pressão.
Uma pressão. Eles despriorizaram a molecada.
Isso. E só que agora, eu acho que ano que vem é voltar a priorizar a molecada. E até porque ano que vem o pique é deles, se eu não me engano.
Não precisava ver
a
história.
história. Tô na dúvida, né? Não, mas assim... Eu gosto desse core, dessa molecada. Eu acho que alguma coisa aí, ou mais de uma coisa, na verdade, vai estourar e vai dar muito certo.
Não,
assim. Eu ponho muita fé no Amen e o Sengun. Eu acho que já é uma realidade. A dúvida é o quão bom vai ser.
Isso, se ele vai ser o Sabonis ou se ele vai chegar num Jokic da vida. Eu acho que é meio que...
Ele vai estar entre Jokic e Sabonis. A questão é...
Calma. Mas você desrespeita muito o Domas, hein?
Não, ele vai ser melhor que o Domas, pelo amor de Deus.
Você tá vendo a temporada do Domas?
Legal. Ele vai ser melhor que o Domas. A minha dúvida é se ele vai estar mais perto da onde aqui na escala Domas e Jokic,
não,
sabe?
Vamos lá. Eu também, se fosse pra apostar, eu acho que ele chegaria mais longe, porque o Sabonis, cara... O Sabonis... Não vou falar disso agora. Mas o Sabonis, ele tem seus problemas... Um problema crônico, que é a falta de proteção de aro. Reboteiro maravilhoso. E o arremesso de 3 pontos, assim. Mas dá pra viver sem isso, sabe? Mas eu acho, sim, se fosse pra apostar, pô, a gente tá falando do cara no 3º ano, ele já tá assim.
Ele é mais talentoso. Né?
Não, e eu acho que ele é... Nessa
Mais
temporada
genial,
que...
assim.
Não, nessa temporada... Eu não vou... Cara, eu acho o Sabonis muito inteligente, mas muito
Ele é
inteligente.
inteligente,
E muito talentoso pra passar a bola. Ele é um dos melhores pivôs passadores da história da NBA também. Você pode colocar ele nesse balaio. O Sengun, que eu acho que ele tem, é mais upside defensivo. E esse ano a gente já viu isso melhorar. Antes o treinador também, né? O Steven Silas era dureza, né? Botava os Bruno Fernando e esses caras. Mas ele deu um salto defensivo também de... Óbvio, ainda não é o cara, mas você consegue ver que ele pode sobreviver, ele tem chance de virar um cara bom ainda.
Mas é isso. Lesão dele, nossa, dos males o menor de longe. E que bom. Teremos um jogo saudável aí no ano 4.
Então, eu... Só o negócio do Wilson, eu concordo com você. Eu acho que sai coisa desse balaio, eu acho que o Sengun é bem promissor e eu boto muita fé no Jabari Smith. Eu acho que ele vai ser... Não vai ser um número 1, mas eu acho que ele vai ser um ótimo jogador pra você ter no seu elenco. Tipo...
minha dúvida é quão bom ele vai ser, mas eu acho que ele vai ser bom também. Ele vai ser um titular de NBA que contribui para um time,
por exemplo. Você
vencedor.
pega vários desses caras, sei lá, o Keegan Murray. Eu acho que, no mínimo, ele vai ser um negócio assim. Com potencial pra...
Ele tem ainda um potencial de estrela, mas eu ponho menos fé de estrela.
De estrelas, eu tenho mais receio com a criação de jogada dele, com o playmaking, mas...
Agora, Cam Whitmore eu gosto bastante.
Esses caras...
Amen Thompson.
Esses caras ainda tá rolando a fase de...
primeiro ano.
De vamos ver qual é.
Claro.
E a gente falou isso também. Se o Amen Thompson chutar 16% de 3 na carreira, esquece. Nunca vai ser uma... Isso serve pro irmão dele, pro Alzer também.
Mas é muito bom de 2 pontos.
mas se ele for muito bom de 2 pontos e não tiver nada de arremesso, a galera vai começar a se preocupar com ele. Hoje ninguém se preocupa. E aí viu, opa, o homem cortou. Não tem nenhum esquema pra marcar o Amen Thompson. Aí depois vai rolar tipo, que nem o Guiri. A galera sacou o Guiri e falou, ei, Guiri, vai lá, mano, chuta aí então. Chega, você não vai mais bater pra dentro, não vai rolar mais nada parecido.
Mas, vamos ver.
Vamos ver. Firu, Vamos de convidado?
Vamos.
Vamos de convidado? Você vai buscar o convidado?
Vou lá buscar.
E eu vou fazendo uma introdução, é isso?
Isso.
Galera, e você vai passar na frente da câmera.
Mas
muito rapidamente. Olha lá, Firu passou, voa. Firu passou e eu vou falar, gente, que hoje a gente tem um convidado muito especial. É um jornalista australiano. Ele tá num projeto... Esse cara, ele trabalhou... mais de 10 anos, ele é apaixonado por basquete, ele cruzou o mundo em busca do sonho dele de trabalhar com basquete, né, pela paixão pelo jogo. Ele saiu da Austrália, morou em Londres, aí de Londres ele foi para Toronto, aí em Toronto ele falou, cara, ele começou a trabalhar, entrou no meio assim, aí pô, o cara é bom, ele ficou, mudou para Atlanta, trabalhou 10 anos entre NBA TV, The Athletic, E aí, no final de 2022, ele falou, cara, não quero mais isso. Não quero mais isso. O que eu vou fazer? Eu vou viajar o mundo jogando racha. Vou jogar racha em 20 países diferentes. Ele colocou essa meta pra ele e... So far, so good. Já pra ir aquecendo no inglês. Foram 19 países até agora, se não me engano. Depois a gente vai ver o número de continentes, etc. Acho que 4 continentes. E a última parada... é justamente no Brasil. A última parada é justamente no Brasil. Essa é a última a última cidade onde ele jogará racha. Também vai para o Rio, né? Vai fechar os 20. Ele veio para cá por causa do Jogo das Estrelas do NBB, né? Veio participar de seminário, fazer conteúdo, já juntou tudo. Por sinal, vou abrir um parênteses. Se você não tem nada para fazer nesse fim de semana aqui, está em São Paulo, sexta e sábado, dá um pulo no Jogo das Estrelas do NBB. Eu acho que vale a chance, cara. Tem ingresso a partir de R$25 com meia entrada. Então fiz esse parênteses aqui, porque eu acho que pode ser um rolê legal e é sempre bom valorizar o basquete. Então esse cara veio pra cá pra jogar, pra acompanhar o Jogo das Estrelas, pra fazer um seminário. Fez hoje um seminário pra equipe de marketing e comunicação da Liga Nacional, que foi muito legal. E veio também pra jogar basquete com você, comigo, com Rafael Cardone e o Firu. Gente, agora vamos virar aqui, apertar a tecla SAP para apresentar o Leigh Ellis, que é o nosso convidado de hoje, o primeiro convidado internacional da história da TOCO TV. Leigh, such a pleasure having you here, and thank you for accepting our invitation. And I would like to start. You're playing pickup all around the world.
Yes.
And yesterday, Monday, you had the opportunity to play with two really good, or not, Brazilian players called Mesa and Firu.
Yes.
I would like you to start. You have like a lot of baggage.
Two
in pickup
uprising
games.
stars.
Two
Two uprising stars.
Two uprising. I would like us to start with you rating our games, because we talk about a lot about our play.
Yeah.
But we want like a different opinion, just so the audience
We
can.
talk a lot,
Yeah.
but not boasting.
No.
I'll say there's a little bit of a Shaq and Kobe sort of dynamic there because Gustavo's the point guard, you know, a little bit smaller in stature, you know, a bit quicker, can sort of fill the lane a little bit more. But then Rafael, he's a big body, and you feel it. I was defending you a few times, and you know, again, as you get a bit older, like guys know how to use their body and they know how to get you out the way, and so I found that, you know, from range you were really nice, knocked in a couple of shots.
The first one.
but then you got two contrasting games, which is really important. So you can both play off each other.
That's a good thing. You said Shaq and Kobe is more like Javon Carter and Larry Nance, but it's okay.
Well, you know, I'm trying to be kind here.
know,
so.
Of course.
But such a pleasure having you here. And Leigh, talk a little bit about this project of yours. 'Cause you've been like traveling literally around the world, but to play with common people.
Yeah, I mean, this is, to me, sort of where basketball started as a kid, growing up in Australia. You know, you pick up a ball, you shoot some hoops, your friends come over to play, you start competing with each other, you start trying to, you know, you're trying to beat each other, but ultimately it's about, you know, playing and having fun and learning. And then you would play, like a good friend of mine, Daniel, he used to live around the corner, not this Danielle, another Daniel. We would compete against each other, like for hours and hours and hours. But we were teammates for like the local organised team. And so when we were teammates, we knew each other's game. We had the good chemistry. I knew where he could shoot. He knew how to help me. And so when we were on the court together in organised games, we had a lot of success. And so that, you know, when you think about those moments, you don't realise at the time just how important they are. They build camaraderie, they build respect and you know, love and all those sorts of things. And so after, you know, as I become a father and a husband, you know, and my career was in the basketball media world, I was having a great time. But there's a part of me that was like, I just want to go back to playing and having fun. And to combine that with traveling and knowing how much people love basketball around the world, you guys, we all love basketball the same amount. I saw it last night. It was competitive. It was fun. And you were telling me, I think, Gustavo, it only happens usually once a week, but usually every guy, and it was 10 o'clock at night, everyone's like, we're getting out. We want to get our run in, because it's more than just playing basketball. It's that opportunity to, you know, catch up with friends, talk about lives, see how people are doing and stay in touch. And when you think about the COVID times, we lost a little bit of that. And so I think people now are holding on to it a little more because it's so meaningful, and we don't want to go through that again where we're kind of isolated and separated from each other. So I'm trying to really tell the story of how I can turn up anywhere in the world. I've never met some people. I don't know some people. I mean, there's sometimes an exchange of emails and things like that. But it's like, hey, you want to play basketball? And people are like, yeah, we're playing. Just come out and play.
Yeah.
And the language barrier is not a factor. Like last night, you guys were all speaking in Portuguese, but at no point was I like, I can't understand what they're saying, because basketball was doing the talking and the communicating. And that's what's really, really special about it. Like, I can be in Croatia, Serbia, South Africa, Manila, Japan, Brazil, Mexico. It doesn't matter. Once you're on the court, the basketball and the game does the talking.
And, well, you've said so far 19 countries.
Well, Brazil is number 20.
20, yes. And you kind of accomplished already. We are in history. Me and Firu are part of history. And which one was the most unexpected part? Like, which pickup game, maybe because there was a lot of people, or maybe because the level was way higher than you expected? What was like during this tour the pickup game that caused more cause an impression in you.
I mean, I've had some really, really good games. In Kenya, I played where the boys and girls are playing, and some of the boys are like dunking in the game. And I'm like, you saw me last night. I'm not dunking. I can shoot okay, but I'm not dunking. So that's a completely different level. And then in Zambia, I was really surprised there at just, again, how athletic and how passionate they were for the game. They just don't have the facilities and the resources so that more people can play and develop the skills as people grow and get to the NBA. So the passion and the dedication and the love for the game is virtually universal. It's just other countries don't have the infrastructure that other more wealthier countries do. But everywhere I've been, I've found, for the most part, really good basketball. And in Slovenia and in Croatia, Serbia, those Balkan countries, they know how to pass and move. And last night, actually,
and you enjoy passing the ball, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of took it from your game that you're really a pass first guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's two reasons for that. One is I like doing that, but also when you turn up to a new run, we've all probably seen it. Someone brings a guy in, and that guy just starts firing away at everyone. Even if that guy's hitting shots, it's like, who's this dude? Yeah. So part of that sort of introduction is like, I'm going to make sure that they know that I'm moving the ball, and when I get a shot, I'll take it. But I also feel that that's just the best way to play good, successful basketball, because if you're playing and that ball's moving around and you're like, I know it's coming to me at some point, you stay focused. And then you stay engaged on the defensive end. When it's one-on-one, and sometimes that happens in 5-on-5 full-court basketball, you're just like, I'm just doing a cardio workout, just running up and back.
You said today at the lecture, that's mostly what you find in America, playing pickup. You said that you were comparing the Balkan basketball with the American basketball, that you said like there is like 3-on-3, everybody touches the ball.
Yeah.
And in America it's like a one-on-one challenge.
Yeah, I mean, so I should put some context to that. There's more of that one-on-one in America.
Okay,
it's
not only.
Yeah, it's not like the whole game is like that, but I've certainly played in Canada and the United States where it might start off 1 or 2 passes and then 2 guys are just like getting into a little battle. And you're just like, I just want to touch the ball, you know. But I've found in other countries, again, particularly in the Balkans, because 3-on-3 is their more normal way of playing pickup, when there's only 3 players, that ball has to move. You know, you can't do that one-on-one. And they just cut and they're continually moving the ball. Now, there's only been 8 FIBA 3-on-3 World Championships, and Serbia's won 6 of them, and they're runner-up in another. Having been there now, I'm like, you can see these kids at a young age are taught pass and move, cut, get ready, the ball's coming to you. High percentage looks, like go for layups. You don't have to do the Steph Curry step-back threes. Steph Curry step-back threes are great to watch, but not many people can really execute them at all, like Steph. I mean, if they could, they'd be in the NBA. But I think that's the thing. Kids are impressionable, and of course they see Steph and it looks easy. They want to shoot like him. But you need to develop those fundamentals first. And you see that in the Balkans, I think, a lot more because of the 3-on-3 format.
And, well, you can see where the Jokic's and the Doncic's and the Petrovic's, if you come back in time, where they were like, where they started, why they started like that.
Yes.
And there's a thing about Jokic, he says, like, till you are 14 in Serbia, you don't have a position. You train everything. And it's like, that's why everybody like has all these great fundamentals.
Yeah. And the other thing is with Jokic, you know, a lot of guys talk about, hey, team first, I'll sacrifice my shots to have the team win or whatever. But he actually does it. You know, like Jokic, I have no doubt could score 40 a game if he wanted to, because he's got so much talent. He can shoot the 3-pointer. He's hard to defend inside. He can get to the free throw line. But he genuinely wants to win. And one of the most enjoyable things about the NBA right now is how Jokic has the ball and all of a sudden he throws it up and Aaron Gordon just comes flying out of nowhere, you know, and grabs it and does these dunks. It's the perfect combination because Jokic does not care about scoring. He wants to win. He draws that double team. Aaron Gordon, they've developed great chemistry already. He's like, I'm just going to run at the rim. And you see even Jamal Murray sometimes, it's like they throw the ball and it's like, whoa, that's a turnover. And then it's like, Aaron Gordon, you know, grabs it. And Aaron Gordon in Orlando for a lot of years, he was talented, but it was just the wrong fit. He's not a number 1 guy. He's much better suited to a role like this, where it's like, Don't worry, you'll score your points. You just have to use your skills, like your athleticism and your ability
We've beaten on this drum a lot here.
And do the dirty work that he does so greatly.
Defensively as well.
It's amazing.
He was great against the Heat. Because he's so long and he's athletic, they can say, hey, go and defend this guy. And then on the offensive end, he's still not a great shooter, but he doesn't need to be. Yeah. And it's like all you need to do is watch Jokic. And another one is Michael Porter Jr., where sometimes you'll see Michael Porter Jr. just standing there. All of a sudden, the ball's in his hand. And he's like, all right, I may as well shoot it. And he's a great shooter. So the Nuggets right now are so much fun to watch because they've got so many weapons. And it really is a democratic offense, which is fun to watch and very, very hard to defend.
Is this your favorite team to watch nowadays?
Right now it is, yeah. Yeah, I think, I think because I really enjoy the way Jokic, it's like you can see those shots coming. Anthony Davis, remember it was only I think I've given him a bit of PTSD here, but like Anthony Davis is defending him. His hand's there, the ball's there. There's 1 second of the shot.
It's a perfect defensive possession by Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and it's not a fluke though either from Jokic because we've seen this so many times.
Time and time again. Yeah.
He jumps off the wrong foot. He's fading. It's like it looks like he's sort of he's going to turn over the possession or at least miss the shot. And he hits these shots, and then he just goes back to the other end. He's not doing this flexing or anything. And but I really like the way that the Nuggets have built that team because Jokic was drafted, Porter was drafted, Jamal Murray was drafted. They made a really smart trade to get Aaron Gordon. So it's hard to not sort of cheer those guys on.
And the KCP trade was also very savvy.
Yes.
Yeah, they nurtured the homegrown talent and just picked the right pieces around it.
And I mean, it's always a lottery that no one knew. If everyone knew Jokic was going to be this good, he wouldn't have been the 41st. Whatever he was.
Even Denver would have drafted him on
the first round.
On the slot, they drafted Nurkic.
Yes.
It was the same draft.
Well, that's right. They had Nurkic, and Nurkic was their guy at the start. And then they were like, okay, you're out. Jokic is in. But until Jokic, he won those 2 MVPs, but it was like, but can he actually take the team to the next level? Now he has, and it's like, so what's the ceiling for him now? There seemingly isn't one.
Yes, we were talking about this last week. He may become like the greatest center we've ever watched in our lives. Right now, Shaq has this position, but I don't know. Jokic, Shaq was like the most dominant player I've ever seen, pure force and pure power. But Jokic has another kind of dominance. And when you talk about the offensive game, there are no holes. Yeah. Shaq had a free throw hole. Yeah. I see Denver as the favorite and above everybody else. Everything can happen, and I see it as a sustainable thing.
So do I. And again, I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that Aaron Gordon, to me, seems to understand he's probably going to get offers and more money and a bigger role and maybe on other teams. But if he wants to win and he wants to play with guys who know how to play with him, he would be wise to stay in Denver. We saw Bruce Brown leave last season to go to Indiana. Now, he got his money, fair enough. That's what he wants. He got his championship. But if you're Bruce Brown right now, would you give up some of that money to be backed on that role that he was on the Denver Nuggets, where you're a chance to win another championship? I mean, I would. Other people wouldn't. But that, to me, is the Nuggets are almost like, you're good, but we can do without you as well. I don't think they're going to have those same problems with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, even when it becomes a bit of a cap crunch there. I think and I hope that those guys are like, we value championships more than every single penny that we can squeeze out of the organization.
And as you said, the Aaron Gordon case, I've told you I'm a Magic fan, and I've watched Aaron Gordon's whole career. And I don't think he would leave that, because he had the opportunity to be the guy to handle the ball, to start the offense, and it wasn't his thing. I was so happy for him when he got traded, because I thought, well, Jokic is going to maximize everything he does. And it's even better than I imagined, because he's more perfect. He fitted well
And he's improved, of course. Also because of the situation.
Yes, the situation helped him improve.
Yeah.
Because he never played like real meaningful basketball.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's tough to play winning basketball with DJ Augustin.
Yeah, but also he doesn't now really shoot those 3-pointers either, which in Orlando he did.
But
for
he
a while.
had to.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right. Now he understands. It's like it's a bit like the Sean Marion in Phoenix, where it's like he's not a great shooter. I mean, Sean Marion has an ugly shot, but you just run to the rim. You'll get enough putbacks and tip-ins and easy opportunities without having to be the guy that they look to be like, we need you to score 20 good points a game through shooting. He doesn't need to do that.
And the thing about Aaron Gordon I like a lot, whenever he has a shorter guy on him, he just bullies him to the rim and Jokic always finds him.
Yeah.
It's like
he plays really smart now. And there was no evidence back then that he would be a smart player.
Yeah.
You couldn't put this against him because he didn't have the opportunity. It was a wasteland there in Orlando.
Yeah.
But it's quite impressive how much well they gelled together.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think Michael Malone deserves a lot of credit too, and the organisation by extension, because usually a coach doesn't get that many opportunities to after 5 years, if you haven't sort of made close to winning a championship, it's like, all right, try somebody else. But they stuck with him, and Michael Malone has, he's managed that team so well, where it's like Jamal Murray is the point guard. He's going to get his score, his points. Jokic is obviously the star. And other guys can just slot in, knowing they're all going to get their opportunity and their points.
And they stayed the course.
Yeah.
Injuries for Michael Porter Jr.,
Yes.
devastating injuries.
Yes.
And also Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to trade both of them if they wanted to get someone who would help immediately.
Yeah.
While Jokic was the MVP,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't want to waste an MVP season by Jokic.
No.
They said, no, we believe in this plan.
Yeah.
So let's move on with this. Okay, this season there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
But when we're healthy, we'll be there.
And Michael Porter Jr. sort of always carries that, that back injury in the sort of in the background, because it's like he fell in the draft because of the back injury. He was considered at some point the #1 pick, but it was like the injury's too risky. They signed him to that big extension, and even still defensively, sometimes it looks like he's not paying attention. I think he's improving, but so to your point, there are so many times I'm sure the Nuggets are like, is it worth investing in Porter Jr.? They've stuck with him. And it's paid off in the sense that he's a great.
He's overpaid for what he does,
Yes.
but he's perfect for the system.
Yes.
Like he's like a 6'11" guy with beautiful stroke, and has that kind of help defense blocking shots, and it fits. It's expensive, but it's a thing you need. So
it is.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And you can count on.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So far, reliable when he's on the court.
No. Not health-wise. Yes.
Leigh, I think Denver's like the popular league pass favorite. Who would come number 2?
Well, so for me, it would be DONCIC or Giannis, and it's because those guys just compete. And one thing I love about Giannis, and I'll go back to Game 6 of the finals in 2021 against the Suns. 15 of 17 from the free throw line, 50 points. Those free throws, remember in the playoffs, we had everyone counting him down. I was in Atlanta when the Bucks played the Hawks. Everyone's I was shouting 1, 2, 3, to try to get him to speed up. So for a guy to have such obvious struggles at the free throw line in the biggest game of his career, to not be afraid of contact, to understand you're going to get these free throws, so knock them in. Don't avoid it. Don't try to do something else. To go and step up and do that, I think was incredible. And so I have so much respect for Giannis, because we talked about it a little bit today in the seminar, how the NBA, there's a lot of guys that feels only contribute and play when they feel like it, and that I think is detrimental to the product. I don't think I've ever seen Giannis take even a possession off. He's been dunked on probably 25 times in his career, because he's going after those blocks. And that's what I love, is he's not like, I don't want to be memed here, so I'm not going to defend. He tries to defend. And then on the offensive end, he's the same thing. It's like the shot's never going to be beautiful. It's never going to be a Ray Allen or Steph Curry shot. But you can see he's worked so hard and he's trying to say, if you leave me open, I'm going to try to shoot this shot. You know, when you compare him to someone like Ben Simmons, an Australian guy, you know, his career, I mean, it's really derailed. But the first 4 years when he did play, the numbers flatlined, which to me says he wasn't working hard. Giannis, his numbers, he's shooting those three-pointers with confidence. And look, he still bricks them and airballs a few of them. But at least he's showing like, hey, I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna work on this. So him, you know, Giannis and the Bucks is always a fun team to watch, and then just DONCIC as well because, you know, DONCIC is the oldest 25-year-old I think I've ever seen. You know, he sort of loafs up and down the court, and it's like, how is this guy all of a sudden going to do this step back three? Same thing, you can see it happening, and he still does it. I was in Atlanta. I was at the game when he had 73 points this season. He had 41 at halftime. And again, the way the Hawks were defending him, it's like everyone in the building can see dribble, 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 step back three. How can you not defend it? But he's got that ability to be quick enough, even though it looks slow when you're watching him. So it's more, I think, about those individual players rather than another team. But by extension, it's those two teams.
Firu is kind of, he's not in a Giannis loving phase of his life. But, but the thing one thing you said, and I think it's worth mentioning, is the thing I respect like probably the most about Giannis is he knows his shortcomings, but he's never afraid to take the responsibility. Yes. And that is, and the as you said, the game 6 of the finals 2021, like is the epitome of this. Like this, the moment he needed the most, he wasn't afraid of getting. It was the opposite. Yes. It was like
he rose to the occasion.
Yes. Exactly. When and it's such a mark, such a stamp. Like I won the title with this. Yes. I'm such a fan of Giannis, and I totally agree with the not taking a game off. And it's so rare, but he has such an intensity and a fire, a competitiveness to not get distracted by the other things. And about Luka, the thing I love the most about him is the slowness of his game. Yeah. And when he was 18, he was already slow. Yeah. But he always could get to his places. Yeah. And we here, we didn't have a podcast, but we thought it was outrageous for him not to be picked number 1 and number 2. And Atlanta even had the chance, so... You lost an opportunity. It was a bummer for you.
You could see him every day.
And I was one of those ones I was saying, listen, I agree. That
you were high on him.
He should be at lowest number 2. There was an argument for 8, and it's like, okay, this guy should be good. Hasn't turned out that way. There was an argument there for it. But I was like, the Hawks, there is no way he's worth just 1 extra first-round pick. Say to the Mavericks, give us 5 first-round picks and you can have him, because that first-round pick extra, I think, was Cam Reddish. Who's turned into Kevin Knox, whatever happened to him. But and again, living in Atlanta, I was like, give us DONCIC, give us him. And look, Trae Young's been good. He's been fun to watch, but he's just not at the same level as Luka Doncic.
Not even close. No. I always defend Trae Young because I think people bash him too much. You know, it's.
That was one of my burning questions.
Okay.
But we can enter it right now.
Let's not dive into Trae Young. So I'm just saying that I'm like a Trae Young apologist,
right?
But there's no way how you could try to compare these two guys.
No.
There's
probably not even Trae Young's father would pick him before Doncic.
But you know, there was a really important moment in Trae Young's career, and it was actually in 2021 playoffs. His first playoff game against the Knicks, he hit the game winner, and then they closed out that series in I think it was Garden. 5. Yeah. Was it 6 or 5? Anyway, they closed. You know, so his first playoff series really impressive. His second series was against the Sixers. Wins game 1 in Philadelphia, and then they go on. Of course, they win in 7 against Philadelphia, and then against Milwaukee, they win game 1. He had 48, 46. And he did the little shimmy, he hit the 3. And so now the Bucks came back and won the series and, of course, the championship. But after watching that playoff series, the next season, I actually picked Trae Young to win MVP because I felt he had an Allen Iverson sort of ability to just, because he was so small, but he was hitting these shots. He was having huge playoff moments. And maybe I was, again, sort of biased because I was in Atlanta and I saw him up close. I was like, I think this guy can actually be like an Allen Iverson. Now, it turned out to be not anywhere near close, but that playoff series, talking about Giannis and delivering in the moment, for his first playoff run, that was a really, really impressive
And the Hawks
series.
were up 2-1 when he went out with that bizarre injury.
Yeah.
And he stepped on the
Oh,
referee's
that's right.
feet.
Yeah. I
it
forgot
was-
about that.
yeah.
So, look, Trey's a very good player. He's not in that, super elite
No.
category.
No.
He needs definitely another really solid 2 and 3 around. I think Bogdan Bogdanovic.
I love Bogdanovic,
He's fantastic to play. But the Hawks are just, there's just no size. I mean, they've got Capella and Kongu, yeah. Good, but they're more like power forwards rather than centre, and that's where the Hawks are struggling a bit. They need a few more bigger bodies, and they need that second clear option for Trae Young. I think it's Bogdanovic, but I'm not sure. Jalen Johnson's showing some signs of being really, really good.
Those are the 3 players that I think are solid in Atlanta. Now, Capella there's no way this guy is a starter in 2024, The team is really bad. This is something I tried, because people always try to mix team success with player quality.
Yeah.
Especially for the franchise players. And I disagree. I don't think it's Trae Young's fault that the Hawks are so bad. I think it's, despite his greatness, Atlanta is still bad.
Yeah.
That's my view on this.
Yeah.
But this is not to say that, no, he's a top 10 player. He's not.
He's a top
not.
13 to you.
15.
15.
Yeah, I still think he's in the discussion for like top 15, and for me, for sure, he's a top 20 player.
Yeah, I certainly would pick 20 players before him, and that's one of our greatest discussions. The thing about Trae Young, and that Knicks series was amazing.
Yeah.
My son, it was like probably the first experience with basketball with him, and he watched this game and he liked Trae Young like immediately. He has that charisma.
Yeah.
And and that thing you said before, like you can relate to him.
Yeah.
He's like tiny, short, and
Yeah.
skinny, but there are some things. The defensive side, I always believe he's like a niche you have.
Yeah.
You always, when you're defending, you always have that itch, like you know where he is, and that's always gonna be a problem. But in the offensive side, it was something you were saying about the American basketball and sharing the ball. He has like 10 assists a game, whatever, but he concentrates so much of his game, and you can say it's because of the lousy team and everything, but like DeAndre Hunter spends like 12 minutes without touching the ball. He gets one with 3 seconds on the clock. He's got to shoot.
Yeah.
And I think he has probably I would love the fit with Wembanyama that everybody's saying it would maximize his career, but I don't think you can win with Trae Young as your number 1 guy, and because of those particular flaws. And when it comes to shooting, you look at his percentages, it doesn't justify that the shots he takes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that much of his shot selection.
Yeah.
And we have it's one of our biggest discussions around here, and we'd like to ask your opinion, because you are definitely watching him.
And I've been to quite a few Hawks games this year, and I agree that the shot selection is not something that I think is great. Now, he hits some of them. He's shooting a reasonable percentage, but I just feel if I was on the other team, I would say let him shoot those all he wants, because the other thing is I think it's got to affect the chemistry of the team, where it's like, why is this guy shooting from 8 feet behind the line when, as you mentioned, guys like DeAndre Hunter. Now, DeAndre Hunter is frustrating because he's always injured. I think he's talented. I think he's super talented, but it's like it feels like he only plays every, you know.
I've suffered with him in fantasy basketball a few years.
And that's how we get to know guys through fantasy basketball. But and that's the thing with the Hawks is those 3-pointers are great if it's, hey, they're on a run and he does a huge bomb and it gets the crowd going. But he sometimes pulls those in the first, you know, couple of possessions, and I'm just like, I don't. He's not Steph Curry, you know, and he's got other strengths. He's got his speed, and because he's so small, he can pretty much get past any defender. I would much rather see that and then kick the ball out to a Bogdanovic or a Jalen Johnson, whoever it is there, so that guys feel they're more of the offense, and it's not just because the 10 assists, I think, is deceptive as well. It's like he's getting that because he has the ball in his hands almost every single possession the Hawks have when he's on the court. And when he's not on the court, I think you see that ball move around a little bit more. So, you know, he's a good player. He's a young player still. He's got time to figure it out. And, you know, there's talk that the Hawks might move on from him. There's talk that he's in trade, you know, rumours, and he and DeJounte Murray hasn't really worked.
No, not at all.
But, you know, anytime the San Antonio Spurs have a player, they say, we're prepared to trade a young player who was an all-star, give us 3 first-round picks. That should be a red flag. It's like, hang on. The Spurs wanted a guy they drafted and developed. They want to give him away. Like, there's something wrong there. So, and Murray's a good player. But
the fit is terrible.
They look so small that as a backcourt. And it feels as well, for me, it's a little bit like when Iverson was on the Nuggets, where it's like he and Carmelo both got their 25, 26 a game. It's like, your turn, your turn, your turn. When Trae Young sits, DeJounte goes.
Yeah.
They don't mesh well.
No,
they don't maximize their talent because Trae Young's not a spot-up shooter. Jamal Murray, DeJounte Murray is not the spot-up shooter. And Trae Young, one of the things I don't like him is with off-ball movement. He's like, okay, you guys are doing your thing, I'm right here. And when you see other point guards, well, Curry's the biggest example. But if you watch Tyrese Maxey play, he maybe because he had the non-star role, he developed that. But he's always moving. And I would like Trae Young to when they brought DeJounte, I think it was the goal. Like they said, no, we will unleash this part, but it hasn't worked so far.
No, and again, look at Steph and Clay, and it always just felt like they just really understood each other. And again, no one knew it was going to turn out quite as well as it did. But Trae and DeJounte, for me, it feels like one of them's like, well, great, he's sitting down, so I get my chance to be the man, and vice versa. And it feels like the other guys are sort of like, when's it our turn? You know, and that to me is why the Hawks are in the position they're in. Quinn Snyder's a good coach, but they're not close. And this is when a young team invested those 3 first-round picks. Trae, they've given the big contract. This is when they should be at least making some inroads. It feels like they're going the other way.
Yeah.
Want to ask something? Choose it's your turn, Firu.
How did you choose your 20 destinations? Like, is it the court alone, or your previous interest for the countries and the culture? Or is it like, someone invited you? How this process happened?
It's all of those,
all
really.
Of those, yeah.
And it just sort of depends on timing. Like the reason I'm here in Brazil is because it's the All-Star Week here now, and so the timing was perfect. Same thing happened in Iceland. They had a festival, and it was like, hey, we want you to come and be a part of it. And so I was like, that's great. Mexico City, the same thing. So, you know, people who have been following me from the NBA TV days and the Athletic, seeing what I'm doing, like, oh man, come and do it. So that's kind of been a part of it. And then the first 4 destinations, I wanted to go to the Balkans because for me, that represented a really big part of basketball culture. Again, going back to like Dražen Petrovic, you know, the first real non-American player to become more than just a bench player. Like he was a bench player for his first 2 years in Portland, but when he went to New Jersey, he was a star, 3rd-team All-NBA. And that came from somewhere. And then at the same time, we're seeing Jokic and Doncic and Stojakovic and Vlade, a few years back. So that's how it started for the very first destinations. But then since then, you know, there's been people who have saying, hey, the guys in the Philippines said, there's a basketball event, we want you to come out to the Philippines. I was like, yep, great, let's go, let's do it. And that's kind of how I am continuing to grow this. It's like people from all around the world are saying, I've got people from India and Pakistan and Thailand, and they're also, other parts of Africa as well say, come on out. And I'm like, all right, I want everyone just to hold on to that invitation. Let me see if I can knock this one out and then go. Because ultimately, this is only going to continue if I still get interest from people around the world. If people stop inviting me, then I'm going to not be able to do it. So that's really how it started and how it's going to continue.
That's such a unique experience you're going through. And I love what you're doing, because every time I go abroad, I try to play football. Wherever I go, even inside Brazil. So if I go to Recife, I want to try to play football there. And so with me, it's more about football.
Yep.
But also basketball. Like when I was in Chile, working there, I got out of the office late in the afternoon. It was still sunny. I went to the local park to see what was happening. There were some guys playing hoops,
yeah,
and I joined them.
Yeah.
And so complete strangers, I don't know them.
Yeah.
I barely speak their language, especially for the basketball lingo. Like, I don't know how they call each thing in Spanish for the moves, the rules, whatever. But it's basketball. So I can relate to what you're doing, but it is indeed a unique experience.
Yeah.
What I want to know from you is like, what are you discovering throughout this process?
I mean, what you sort of just said then, I think it's very similar to me. Like, here I am, first time ever in Sao Paulo, and I don't feel like a tourist. I feel like a guest. And there's a huge distinction. I know your wife has Chinese heritage, is that right? So you've been to China, visited her in-laws or your in-laws, I guess, and parents and things like that. And if you go to any country and locals are taking you to eat local food and drink the local drinks, and you feel like this is what these guys do. It's not like you're staying in a hotel where you're eating the hotel food and then you're going on a tourist bus and this is this side and this is this side. Get out of the bus and go and take photos and selfies.
This is the Croatian McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I know I've said to Danielle, before I come, say, I don't want to come here and play basketball and leave. I want to eat and drink and experience what I can from what it's like to be a Paulista. And so that to me is a way more fulfilling experience, because I come away from it feeling like, as I said, as a local. And playing basketball last night, I know I was the only gringo out there, but nobody was like, who's this guy? What's he doing? Instead, everyone was just like, play, have fun. And we had a beer afterwards. And that to me is how I'm discovering that anywhere I go in the world, any continent, any country, people are pretty much the same. Play basketball, have a beer, have a few jokes,
eat something.
Yeah, eat something, and that's all it is. So it sort of is proving to me that, we are a lot like each other than we are different. Now, we might have different languages and backgrounds and, beliefs and things like that. But ultimately, we're all the same. And so to combine travel and basketball and make friends. And the other thing is, I'm hoping that this isn't just the only visit I make to Brazil. Danielle as well saying that maybe potentially there is the seminars going to be held in different parts of the country, and this may be something that will continue. And that's what I would love, is like, I would love to come here every year and make this happen, and not just come to Sao Paulo, but go to Recife, Belo Horizonte, Salvador, places like that, because it'd be like, imagine I could discover more about a huge country like this through basketball and through connections and friends that I've made. So,
right. Well, one of the connections you've made is, I don't know if you know that, but
I know this.
I know, I know.
I've studied Leigh.
You've met like someone who's generated probably the best young player in the world, Luka Doncic. How was your dinner with Luka's father?
This is one of my favorite stories to tell, because it wasn't planned that we were having dinner. It was only planned that we were having an interview. And Sasha doesn't give many interviews, but the friend I had there, or the connection I had, worked with him. And so I said to him, just ask him if I can have 10 minutes. And if he says no, fine, but I'd rather you just ask. I can handle the no. I'd rather that than not ask and say, oh, he would have done it if I'd left. So we did the interview, and then he said, do you want to come out for a Slovenian barbecue? And I'm like, of course. Thinking we might have, a meal, and almost like what we had after basketball last night, where it was like a couple of beers and then the night would be over. But this night just never ended. And I had to get a bus to Zagreb in the morning at 8 o'clock or something like that. And so it's probably sounding somewhat contradictory to what I just said, but when you feel like a guest, you want to repay that generosity by staying and drinking and eating. But I was so drunk and so full of meat, and Sasha's just like pouring the wine in. And at some point I was just like, I've got to go, man. I don't even know where my hotel is. I haven't packed. I've got about 4 hours before I've got to get up and then walk to find the bus somewhere to Zagreb. And, I went to the Šuškarija when I arrived here on Sunday, and I didn't eat after that for nearly a day. This combined with a big belly full of alcohol as well as what it was like in Ljubljana there. But it was one of those experiences that I was really thankful to have, because it's a great story to tell, and so many people can relate to it, where you just sort of, the night just keeps on going. And you said that everywhere in the world people are kind of the same, play hoops and drink some, but the Balkans are a little more
intense.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Well, so the meal as
Hardcore.
well. This, like Sasha, I didn't say let me have the menu and I'll order something. I said just you do whatever you do. I want to be a part of it tonight. But perhaps I should have said to him, like, all right, that's after like 8 dishes had come out.
Enough's enough. Enough's enough.
What are the Slovenian dishes?
So it's a lot of meat, actually. It's like a Šuškarija, where it's just meat dish after meat dish after meat dish. And then there's beans and rice as well. All those things that just fill you up. And I do remember one dish that came out. It was like a steak with like cheese in the middle of it, almost like a brie or something in the middle of it. And this was after we had eaten probably 7 other dishes. And he said, now it's time for the main course. And I'm like, and I was looking at my friend and I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but how the fuck am I going to eat this? And he's just like, just eat whatever you can. It's fine. And so they plonk down this meat and I'm just like, all right, one thing, and I'm just like that. And then he's like, no, it goes better with wine. And so I'm drinking wine. I must have consumed 10,000 calories that night. It just felt like that. And, you just feel your stomach is just kind of like, all right, that's enough. But you keep going.
And did you talk hoops with Luca's father? Like, I'm curious, is he like basketball savvy and all? Because sometimes there's nothing that comes from the parents. It's just the kid that loves that thing. Yeah,
well, Sasha was a very good player himself.
Oh, he was.
He's somewhat of a legend in that region too. I think he's Serbian born, but he spent most of his life in Slovenia. But he's a very good player, or he was. And he's big too, like he's 6'6" or 7. So, athletically you can see where Luca got the genes from. We talked a little bit of hoops. He had some funny sort of stories. But I think he was also just enjoying now the different stage of his life, where his son is obviously, he doesn't need to coach his own son or anything like that. He's watching him and enjoying him, seeing him succeed on the big stage. And, Sasha's something of a celebrity when he goes to Dallas as well. People like, and it's hard to not see him, because again, he's a big guy, carries a bit of weight, and he's a big tall guy, and everyone knows he's Luca's dad. So I think he enjoys that. But it was just a great evening. He told me some funny stories, and we talked a little bit of hoops, but it was more just like, hey man, you're a guest in my country. I'm going to treat you like I would treat someone. And I think that was the thing that made it so special, is it made it feel like he made the effort to make me feel welcome. And again, that comes back to, if you're in a country and someone's like, man, welcome to my country, I'm going to treat you as if you're some sort of VIP, you can't help but fall in love with the country and the city and its people.
Well, that's something I feel about Brazil, that when I've been to Europe and people, I've lived in Spain, I've told you, people are nice, are like polite, are attentions, but they're not that like the closeness isn't the same. Like, well, let's go. You come here. No, I'll take you to dinner. Then I'll take you there. And I think that in it's a typical thing of Latin America. It's in Europe way different, and you are experiencing it all around the world.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What was the country, and Brazil is all concours, so you don't have to say it, but you felt like most hugged, like?
I mean.
No, I know it's tough because you said it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is
but
tough. I would say probably in a surprising way it was Iceland, where I assume a country like Iceland is hockey and football and maybe handball and then basketball, but it's actually football and then basketball. Iceland were fanatical about basketball, really, really passionate about it, and so many people, I was surprised, knew me from the TV days. They were like, oh, I remember I used to watch it. And I was like, wow, I just never thought Iceland would be like that when it came to basketball. And so we went around and so many people were like, oh, Leigh, welcome. And I was just like, man, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm a nothing celebrity. Like, can you imagine what it must be like if someone like David Beckham turned up there? You know, like, you know, if people are going that, you know, being that welcoming to a relative stranger, what it must be like for someone who's actually like globally famous must be crazy and a wild experience. But the Icelandic people, so we actually drove from Reykjavik to a town called Akureyri for the tournament, and it was about a 5-hour drive. And I went with these guys, and they said, "We'll take you, we'll drive up, and you can come with us." And I was like, "Great." And the guy, Siggy, brings his guitar along. We were singing the whole way in the car in English too, because he's basically a cover band and he does things like at weddings and ceremonies and things like that. And he had an endless catalogue of songs. And I was just like, here I am driving in the middle of nowhere in Iceland, singing songs, having a great time. And, you know, when we got there, it was like, right, let's eat, let's drink, let's have a great old time. And, you know, this is probably the part of it that I wish I was able to capture those moments better on camera and tell the story, because I'm doing it all by myself, so I don't always have the ability to record everything. And now I've got the stories and the memories, and I hope I can bring it to life at some point down the track. But in those moments as well, there's a part of me that's like, just enjoy the moment too. You don't always have to.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's hard because I'm trying to turn it into a series. But I think life, we've lost a little bit of that. Just enjoy the moment rather than...
As soon as you turn on the camera, the magic goes away.
It's other thing.
Yeah,
it's
another thing. And actually going back to Sasha Doncic with that, like, we were having such a great time. I was like, I should be recording this. But he was like, I don't want the camera on. And I was like, okay, well, I'll respect his wishes, because we didn't agree to that before the dinner. And I think because he, you know, he was drinking and he didn't want to look like he was, you know, embarrassing himself or anything like that. But... you know, again, it's that contradiction feeling of like, oh my God, this TV show would be a classic. This would be an immediate hit. But at the same time, just live for the moment and enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I'm more like that. I don't like that much too, because here, especially with younger people, it's like an instinct. Something happens, boom, cell phone.
Yeah,
and you have like those. That's in a photo that's really iconic. It's like when the royal wedding, and that everybody has this phone, and there's this old lady just like watching, because it will be on TV. You don't need to have your lousy recording to it will be easy to find those images. You don't have to do that. But that's when you're a content creator, you also need to do this, because people also want to see what you're doing, because they have interest. It's like, I don't know how much you put that on the balance.
That's the biggest challenge. Like, I put up a photo from the Churrascaria the other day, and people are like, tell us more. You know, I want to see more. What did it taste like? What were you eating? You know, but I was like, I don't have the time to address all that through social media. I do want to, again, add it into my features that I put up when I get back and I start sorting through it. But it's also like, it's just hard to capture all that when I'm by myself. I'm trying to have the experience and live in the moment. But, you know, you can't. I don't want to be one of those people who's like, oh, look, I'm eating this. You know, isn't
I
this
have
great?
like this self-embarrassment of being the...
And there are some people I follow on social media who literally post every single thing they do, and I'm like,
they broadcast their lives. Like, here I am in the market.
Yeah, and you're just sort of like, okay, all right. Not every single meal you eat is the greatest meal you've ever seen, okay? I mean, I'm sure some of them are, but I want the context of the restaurant, the people, the meeting, the moment, rather than just like, isn't this food beautiful to look at? And I'm like, well, tell me more about it.
You said that Giannis is one of your favorite players nowadays. And back on the days of NBA TV, on the Starters show, Giannis went there as a rookie.
That's right.
Were you there on the studio?
Yes.
How was it? And did you have any idea he would be anything close to what he is today?
No one really did, because we saw the incredible athleticism, but it was like, this guy only started playing basketball like 2 years ago or something, and he got drafted, you know. But it's funny when you look at him now, and like all of us, he's matured, he's grown, he's really styled himself. He's a handsome man. When he came into the studio, he was only, I think, 19 maybe, and he was like a little baby off the street, you know, compared to what he is now. He had no sort of style with his hair. He was just like, you know, speaking softly. But now that he's grown in his confidence and his ability as a player, he's a completely different person. Again, like most of us, you know, if the guy you are at 18, you shouldn't be the same guy at 28 or 29. You know, you've lived a little bit more life. You're a bit more older and mature.
Especially since you are a Greek 19-year-old that had no abroad experience.
No, and he grew up basically on the streets selling whatever he could sell to make money. So he didn't grow up like, you know,
preparing himself to go to America.
Like Steph Curry grew up, you know, with an NBA playing father, so he was always playing on nice courts, and basketball was...
Even Wembanyama now, he knew he would be on the NBA
when he was 11.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious about this, because I didn't watch the Starters back then. I don't know if it was here in Brazil for us to watch on League Pass, maybe, I don't know. But
it was on YouTube. It was always uploaded on YouTube.
Okay. But from what I've seen now, it was a kind of humorous content, like really light, and you were joking all the time and all. But from what I heard, you were the responsibles for the term wedgie.
Well,
or it's not. So
the person
wedgie cuecão?
No.
Yes, but wedgie for when the ball hits the rim and gets stuck on the rim.
So
the Americans call it wedgie, and it's like the official term nowadays. It's a wedgie, like on the
so
the
what
broadcast.
happened was, it was Ralph Lawler, the Los Angeles Clippers TV play-by-play man, in a preseason game. I think it was DeAndre Jordan, you know, threw it in and said, "Oh, we've got a wedgie." And Tass, who was on the show with me, he picked up on that. And so then he started like counting, and we started recording every time there was a wedgie. And we sort of like blew it up. But we didn't actually invent the term wedgie. That was Ralph Lawler, who was always an entertaining play-by-play man for the Clippers.
You were saying before, like you in NBA TV, you had contact with a lot of players and a lot of former players. Which one is the biggest character?
Wow, it's probably Shaq. I mean, Shaq is just a gigantic human being. Like, when you look at someone like Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Fame Isaiah Thomas, he's about my height, about my weight. He can kind of sort of lose himself in a crowd. You wouldn't automatically go, oh, there's Isaiah Thomas. That's impossible for Shaq. Anywhere he goes in the world, everyone knows who he is, because he's a gigantic human being. But he's also, for a guy who's been in the spotlight for basically his entire life, Shaq I have so much respect for, because any kid, anybody who wants an autograph or a selfie or, you know, whatever, Shaq pretty much obliges them, and he smiles and he be's goofy. Now, can you imagine being in the spotlight? Everywhere you go, people are just like, oh my God, you know, and they've got their cameras out, and Shaq is just like, you know, like, so I think for me, that was the thing, is I saw Shaq as a player, as a beast on the court, you know, an athletic freak, but he's really just a dude. He's just a regular dude around the office. And You know, so sometimes I would see him and he would never say my name, but he would just say, "What's up, my man?" You know, and he'd put his fist out, and his fist is just, you know, as big as a watermelon there. And so to be fist bumping Shaq, you know, as like colleagues, was incredible. I mean, I would love to have been a teammate of his, but of course that could never have happened. So to be a sort of, you know, professional work colleague teammate was the next best thing. And there was only one time in my career there that I saw Shaq actually kind of flustered, and it was in New Orleans at the All-Star Weekend in 2017. And he was the same thing, walking through a crowd. He's got his security with him because, you know, you've got to always make sure that people don't go over the top, because they do. But Shaq would always kind of like keep them at a respectable distance and handle it. But for whatever reason, he was just like surrounded by, you know, so many people, and they were all doing like, "Shaq, Shaq, Shaq." And he came walking and he saw me. And I think because he actually recognized somebody and he knew that I wasn't going to be asking him for anything, he actually did the same thing. He put out his fist. "Oh, my man, how you doing?" Almost as if to sort of say to everyone, "All right, just I'm talking to somebody here now, so you have to give me a little bit of space." And I was like, "Oh, that was me. That was my," you know, I was just in the right place at the right time. It wasn't like Shaq was like, "Give me a big hug."
The whole crowd, "There's Leigh."
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But he at least, you know, there was something in there that he recognised, and he felt, I think, some sort of safety, because he was like, "I know this person is not going to ask me for anything," and so that was really cool. And you know, Shaq, like I say, for what he achieved on the court, Hall of Famer, or, you know, top whatever of all time, 5'10", he could be sitting here right now, and there would be no ego. There'd be no like, you know, he would be asking you questions. He'd want to know about your family. He'd want to know about things. So he wouldn't just try to take over. He would just be like, "Hey, let's go out and eat, you know, have a drink and something afterwards."
A gente tem 18 minutos.
Yeah, I know. Each country you play, you can capture the distinguished styles of play, right, from each country. From what you've seen yesterday, what would you say is the style of play from Brazilians?
Well, a lot of ball movement.
Ball.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes when you're playing a game, it's like one guy can just go out there and kill the other team. But it felt last night, it was like, man, this guy can shoot, and so can this guy, and so can this guy. And this guy can actually run, he can finish around the rim. And so I think I lost every game I played last night. I played like 8 games, and it felt every time it was like one or two guys different each time was sort of the ones who were hitting shots and making it hard. So I think that comes back to what I love about playing. Hey, everyone was getting involved, and quite quickly the team, because you were on the winning team there too, Gustavo.
Yes, I played a lot of winning basketball yesterday.
And you could see the chemistry that you guys...
In spite of you.
but the chemistry was there, because you guys, and this is what was great about it, it was competitive, where you guys were like, once you'd won a few, you didn't want to just tank one and say, all right, I've had enough. Even guys who are a bit sore, they're starting to wear down, but they're like, we've got a winning streak going here, guys, let's keep it going. I think you eventually lost at some point there, but the point being, this is what it comes back to, is like, it doesn't matter who the guys are at the start, you get a little chemistry going, there's you know, you're like, hey, let's make sure these other guys, every time they come on, they're like, damn, we lost again.
Yeah,
you know?
but no, yesterday we beat like a team with Gustavinho e Clóvis.
Yeah.
We beat like some really good teams, because Doug was on fire.
And Victor was on fire.
Victor on the fast breaks and the 3-pointers.
And
really
the crazy,
modern play.
And the crazy layups.
The crazy layups cutting to the left, but like, poof.
Yeah.
Just releasing the ball.
Yeah.
Like, you just...
Whoop. That's a thing you probably have seen, because you must have seen every single style of basketball, every kind of shot.
Yeah.
Because when you go to the park, there's always the different guys.
Yeah.
And if you go to parks all around the world, I believe it's like such a
yeah. What has happened a couple of times is, like last night, I think most people were closer to my age, so there wasn't many guys who were really fast at beating their guys. But I've played like in Tokyo and actually in New York City, where I was playing as well. There were some young legs, and I got exposed a few times. Because, you know, when you're young and you're in your 20s, you look at a guy who's, you know, is clearly not in your 20s, like, I'm just going right past this guy. And so that I've been embarrassed a few times like that. But I remember when I was in my 20s as well, when I'd play against guys in their 40s, I'm like, this old man, he can't slow me down. I'm going right past him.
Some burning questions.
Okay, shoot it.
Do you have one?
No, come.
No, this one is not even a burning question, but we were talking, and you've lived in Toronto, and the people who watch the show know, I don't like Vince Carter at all, because he's like the symbol of when Orlando stopped being relevant and spent like 12 years in limbo. And you said, no, I have a Vince Carter theory. I said, no, save it for the show. What's your Vince Carter theory?
So I think Vince Carter is probably the most naturally gifted basketball player that I've ever seen. You know, I put him in that category of like in terms of the ability, like Maradona almost, where it was like, remember you watch Maradona with the ball? It's like he was born with the ball, you know. And I think Vince, at his height, at 6'7", he could shoot, he could pass, he could jump, he could dribble, he had great handles. He was like, if God was to make a basketball player, it would like, that's what we want. He's not too big where he's a center, where he can be played out of position. He's not too small like a Trae Young. He's virtually unguardable because he can jump, he can shoot, he's got range, he's got everything. But my theory is that he was so talented, so young. When he was playing basketball as a kid, I don't think Vince could have beaten any team he was playing against any time he chose to sort of just turn it on, because no one was at his level. And when you see someone who's so talented, the game comes so easily, you don't have to work all that hard. That can carry you to college and then to the NBA. And he was picked by the Warriors officially, and they swapped him
number
for
5, I believe.
Yeah, for Antoine Jameson. And in his first few seasons there, it was like, it felt to me watching Vince on the Raptors, it was like, this guy's only ever going in sort of second or third gear. Like, if he was to just crank it up and go as hard as he could every night, I think the Raptors in 2001, I think they beat the Sixers. I think they then beat the Bucks as well. And they probably don't beat the Lakers because Kobe and Shaq were almost untouchable. But I think he gives them a good challenge. So I just feel that Vince, his natural gifts, he cruised along in his whole life to get to the NBA. But that's when you really have to put in the hard work. And it just didn't feel to me that he had that same killer mentality that Kobe and Michael and you know, other players have had, where they're like, I am determined to show that I'm the best player in the league. And so I think that was it. Vince was just like, I can sort of survive in the NBA getting 25 a night anytime I want. But he didn't have that.
I'll be rich. Have a great life forever.
Yeah. And you know, you mentioned when he was leaving Toronto, and he just basically stopped trying.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday.
And
that's the thing that everybody forgets nowadays, because he's like such a figure in Toronto, an icon. Yeah. He's like an ambassador of basketball in Toronto. But once he wanted to leave Toronto, he was averaging like 15 points.
Yeah.
The minute he stepped a foot in New Jersey, his average went to like 27. And you just, for me, described Neymar a bit.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I was thinking of Neymar.
Neymar,
like,
because
Neymar is a God-given talent.
Yeah.
And we saw that he could peak.
Yeah.
He could peak to an all-time level.
Yeah.
He was really close to that, but he didn't have that drive.
Yeah.
That drive to put in the effort
and
to really aim that high. You gotta aim that high. Like LeBron James, it was easy for him as well. He had the same.
He could have cruised.
Yeah,
he
could
like
have cruised.
his
Like
career.
He had this God-given ability and this immense
size, athleticism, everything.
athleticism,
Yeah.
which is similar to Vince Carter.
course,
but
yeah.
he put in the work every day. Like, he's obsessed with being great.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing in both Neymar and maybe also Vince Carter. Like, I don't think Neymar.
The Vince thing, I think when he went to Orlando, he was past. He was like 30, but past his athletic prime, and there wasn't much else. LeBron, he prepared his whole life for him to stepping down a bit with athleticism and things like that. He developed the 3-point shot. Like once it goes down. And with Westbrook, it's similar with it. Like,
Yes.
but not for the same reasons. Westbrook doesn't have that shooting talent, and
Yeah.
he always worked hard. But
Yeah.
once the athleticism went away, most of his game went away.
Yeah.
And Vince Carter, I believe, is a lot like that. And
But I also think with Vince, you saw the fact that he just loved playing basketball at that same comfortable level, because he went to Sacramento, he went to Memphis, he went to the Hawks for the last 2 years.
he made the tanking tour.
Yeah.
He played with
And
all
that's
lousy
what I mean.
teams.
He was like, I'm not chasing a ring. I just want to play on a team that's going to give me 12, 15 minutes. I can shoot some threes and have some fun. And so I think there was a real contrast that he loved the game. And if you compare him to, say, Michael and Kobe were not really loved by their teammates either, because they were such like, you've got to meet my level of intensity. Whereas I think someone like Vince was like, I'm fine just, cruising along, because even in Orlando, he didn't do the same sort of dunks and stuff. But man, that shot just felt like he could get that off any time he wanted, because he was just so naturally talented.
Yeah, he was.
And well, the last burning question, I believe we can leave the show without asking your take on the GOAT debate. we must, because we
Yeah.
have different opinions
Yes.
here, and I'd like to listen to yours.
Well, for me, it's Michael. And there's many, many reasons. And one of them is the fact that, 2 3-peats, 6-0 in finals, the way that he ended against Utah, stealing the ball off Karl Malone. Before that, he hit the layup as well. To come out of retirement to go and do that after, he retired, he came back. And in that first time he came back, he lost to the Orlando Magic. And it was like, maybe he made a mistake coming back. Instead, they go 72-10. They beat the Sonics, and then they beat the Jazz. And Michael, there's 2 parts. There's on the court, where his success is unmatched. And then there's the off the court impact that no other, certainly basketball player, is even going to get close to, I don't think. The cultural, the global, the fact that Michael Jordan was so cool. Everything he did was like his name, the way he dressed, the way he drove, the way he spoke, the number, the Bulls, like everything was just like a perfect storm. LeBron's going to finish his career with more numbers and more appearances in the finals, but ultimately I just don't think that if I was to pick, hey, one guy to play a game to take the shot to save your life, I mean, there's just no one I would pick more than Michael Jordan, because he was such a ruthless, fanatical competitor. And LeBron, as great as he's been and with his 4 championships, he's also been swept in the finals twice. He's lost in 5 games in the finals twice. And an undeniable talent. But I just don't, I don't see what he's done has been more successful and better than Michael. He's never had a 3-peat. His only repeat was in Miami. And that, to me, it's like you can win a championship, and teams will win a championship. The Celtics win it in 2008, but they didn't win another one after that. So winning one, coming back and doing it again, then doing it a 3rd time, to do that twice and to be 6-0, I mean, I would take 6-0 over 4-8, which is LeBron 4-8 or
4-6.
4-6. I would just take fewer appearances if they're all successful over more appearances, where it's kind of like, and you can kind of like, I don't like putting asterisks on any championship, but you can kind of put 1 or 2 on LeBron's. I mean, the bubble, however you feel about the bubble, I don't think anyone's going to look at that as like, wow, that was an awesome championship that they won.
Well, I do. I do. Totally
We can
do.
see
Yeah.
why.
I totally
No,
do.
the bubble thing, I think it was different, but I don't take away anything from the Lakers, because everybody played in the same conditions, and these conditions helped the Lakers. Well, they had a lot of rest. They had a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And the thing about my take on the GOAT debate is, I don't think there's only few athletes that become bigger than its own sport. You can say Muhammad Ali in boxing, but in individual sports, that's easy.
It's harder. Yeah, well,
It's
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
Like Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
Those guys
Yeah.
become legends, and then there's the sport.
Yeah.
In collective sports, I think only Pelé and Michael Jordan have accomplished that. I don't think even Messi. I don't know Maradona, but I don't think Maradona too, because Pelé was like Pelé. Everybody recognizes him, and there's the soccer thing. It's like such an aura around these athletes that it was even bigger than the game.
Michael is so much bigger than basketball as well, and I think that that's it. I mean, if you were to name the most impactful athletes, and I think Tiger Woods has to be in there as well for what he did for golf, Muhammad Ali, Maradona, Pelé, whatever. But Michael is right there because, again, we talked about it, Danielle and I, before we even came here, just about how you can go almost anywhere in the world and someone will be wearing Jordans. And I said, I bet you someone's in here wearing them tonight. Less than 10 minutes later, this girl comes along wearing a pair of Jordan 1s. I couldn't tell you a single pair of Kobe's or LeBron's or any, Kevin Durant's, any of them. The Jordans, I can pretty much name the first 10 or so, more or less, not quite, but that I think is just another sign of the power that Michael Jordan's had, that like even today, 20 years after his third retirement, Jordans are by far the biggest selling sneaker. And as far as shoes in the world, I mean, they have to be up there as the most sold shoes of any brand, even,
if you count Havaianas.
Yeah, but indeed it was the perfect storm. He was the face of the league, and it's also because of him, and also because of David Stern and all the advances they were making in the game and the league as well. It was the time of the NBA explosion, right? And he was dominating the league in that exact time. And wow,
the thing is, I don't know. It's like the chicken and the egg.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You needed Michael to promote the game.
Yeah.
You needed Michael.
But it was the globalization period.
Yeah, but we were in a specific set of time in the world.
Michael and Larry and Dr. J were.
Yeah.
So the perfect storm is right that Michael came along at the right time, but at the same time, Michael was probably.
Of course.
He was the one that because people just wanted to see the tongue out, the big shots, the dunks and all that. And that sort of thing. He had it all. He had the entire repertoire of the game-winning shots, best dunks. He won the dunk contest, and he did it all on a team where it was like, this is not the Lakers or the Knicks or the Celtics. It's like Chicago, who, when he was drafted, nobody cared about the Bulls. And he now has made the Bulls like one of those destinations. People always say, everyone wants to go and play for the Bulls. I'm not sure that's true.
I think that's faded.
But but it's certainly for at least 15 years after he retired.
Even more.
Probably 20. It was like the Bulls are one of those teams.
Well, we have like 2 minutes.
No,
No. The last thing, I'll say em português. Galera, o Leigh, ele veio pra cá, né? E espero que vocês tenham gostado do programa. A gente já vai... Eu não vou dar tchau pra ele, porque quem vai encerrar o programa é a pessoa que é a responsável por trazer o Leigh aqui. E é um cara que, inclusive, ele já ouviu o nosso programa. Então, ele é parte da nossa audiência e contribuiu para a gente ter essa presença mais que especial aqui. Leigh, what I'm saying is, I'm not ending the show. The show will be ended by Daniel Portillo Jardim. Por favor, venha aqui, dá tchau, fala com a galera, dá um palpite, um pitaco, porque eu falei que você ia aparecer. Chega aqui, não, vem. Eu ia cumprimentar. Senta aqui você.
Senta ali.
Nessa vai encerrar aqui. Só pra você, ó.
Apesar de eu estar de terno, não tem nem roupa pra isso.
Pô, tá mais elegante que qualquer um aqui.
Bom, pessoal, prazer participar, assistir aqui dos bastidores. É um programa que eu vou ouvir 2 vezes, né? Ouvi aqui ao vivo e certamente ouvirei depois. Parabéns pelo trabalho e muito legal compartilhar esse momento bem marcante da minha carreira. Nessa minha vida aí de advogado basqueteiro, com vocês aqui essa noite. E obrigado aí pela oportunidade, pelo prestígio.
Valeu demais. Leigh,
Dá um tchau aí, Firu.
Awesome.
falou, galera. Salve. Espero que vocês tenham curtido.
Segue,
Leigh,
segue.
thanks a lot. We'll put your you can say
Yeah.
where people can find you and
Yeah, I mean, it's my name on Instagram is just Leigh Ellis, Leighellis. The same on Twitter, whatever's going on there, but who cares about that? And then TikTok, I think I'm Leigh Ellis 76, and the same on YouTube, I'm Leigh Ellis 76.
todos os links estão aqui na descrição para vocês seguirem o Leigh. Todo esse conteúdo irado. E, galera...
Mais uma coisa. As brabas da KTO ficaram pra terça-feira na Toco Tuesday.
Muito bom.
Né? Você não tinha lembrado.
Muito bom.
Guardamos. É porque eu não achei também as longo prazo. Mas é isso, gente. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Comenta aí qualquer coisa nos comentários. Deixe sua mensagem pro Leigh. E dá um jeito de colar pra jogar basquete se estiver em São Paulo, no Rio. Segue as redes sociais dele, porque vai ter racha.
Ele vai jogar no Vila Lobos e no aterro do Flamengo?
On
Ibirapu.
Flamengo e Rio.
Yes.
Aterro.
E probably in Ibirapuera too, because there will be fun zone for the Jogo das Estrelas. E galera, isso aí, cola no Jogo das Estrelas também, vai ser legal. Todo mundo presente lá, todo mundo presente.
Beleza total, família!
Família!